Hi, I'm Ami Devereaux, and welcome to the video. One of the things that comes up really frequently with my fast-growing startup clients is that they end up with individuals on the leadership team who are emotionally tone deaf. And although these people are often the very highest performers in the enterprise, they don't play well with others. Maybe you've had this happen on your team. It happens a lot on fast growing startups because the early team, the ones that are really up to their elbows doing everything that needs to be done, are by their very nature super high performers. They can work across multiple different kinds of areas. They're willing and able to do most anything, and they are relentless and hardworking. That makes them super valuable as the company scales. And of course, they naturally grow into positions of leadership because they have the longest tenure and the most exhaustive knowledge of the company, its products, its processes, its history, and everything else. But those people, those same super high performers, are often the most toxic to the enterprise. You may find this also if you have a legacy company or you're working in a large legacy company where the very best performers are also those who are sort of universally disliked. Now, you could just chalk it up to envy, but it often isn't that. Often, the same person that is a really high performer is also not great at emotional intelligence. So it's a strange kind of paradox because nobody wants to get rid of their very best performer. Do you just axe them? Do you just sort of cut the toxicity out of the body to save the body? Well, there's really a few different things you can do. But for startups, I recommend starting somewhere else first. First of all, you need to have an established and defined culture. That's not first on the list as you're launching an organization because what you're really working on is sales and strategy and funding and hiring and scaling and operations and processes and everything else. So, working on the culture takes a very, very distant back seat to just getting things done to grow the company. And that's certainly understandable. But at a certain point, when the company has a sort of enough people in it that there is a de facto culture, then you need to address this. Because if you don't address it, that toxicity will metastasize and begin to infect the entire organization. And ultimately, make no mistake, it will affect results. So there are two things you need to sort of start thinking about. On the one hand, you need to figure out if that individual or those high performing but toxic individuals are salvageable. Are they coachable? Can they be trained? Can they build emotional intelligence? Are they willing to? How do they take feedback? That's some of the inventory you want to do at the level of an individual. But at the level of the organization, you need to start making a deliberate choice about what the culture of the organization is going to be. Because early on, there is no established culture. There is just whatever grows up as a function of the specific individuals who join the team. So it's a kind of crapshoot. You're just not sure how it's going to go. And like any group of people thrown together for basically unrelated reasons, like they're thrown together by a mission, but they're not thrown together because they were naturally friends or naturally colleagues or naturally worked well together or naturally shared the same values. You're going to have a kind of whatever happens, sort of like if you just let your garden grow however it grew. Well, that's what you've done. So in order to take a deliberate step back and assess the culture, the first thing to do is an inventory of what the existing culture is. And this requires a very hard look in the mirror. I call this an inventory of the de facto culture because it's just kind of what you ended up with in reality. It's nothing that you chose to have. And you're going to find all kinds of things, and a lot of it will be bad news because cultures just don't organically emerge as fully formed things. So take that hard look in the mirror, get professional consulting help if necessary, and then for the individual, you want to find out through the use of executive coaching or training and development experts, or if you are lucky enough to have an HR department, which very few startups have, then Somebody needs to get with that individual and do an assessment of whether they will and can be trained. Start with whether they're even interested in it. Because if somebody's not coachable and they're not open to feedback, no matter how hard you try to get them to adapt to the situation and learn better emotional intelligence, they're not going to. I hope this has been helpful. This will be a recurring theme as it is in my practice, and we'll talk about it again in the future. Please subscribe on ameedevereaux.com/blog. See you soon.